Hello adventurers, hope you're doing well today. So it's been almost 2 weeks now since patch 6.1 dropped, and Crystalline Conflict has been a very well received and fun to play PvP mode, although a lot of disadvantages and drawbacks of the mode have started to surface with cheating and job balancing issues and so on and so forth. Um, a lot of these are really detrimental, but that does not change the fact that this mode is really fun. So I've been grinding this mode a lot as Machinist and Dragoon, so I'm going to go ahead and in this video I'll talk about what a Machinist is supposed to do and basically and do a full breakdown of its actions, talk about the strats and the minds that you should have while playing a Machinist, and basically that's what this video will be about. So let's go ahead and get started. You need to know that Crystalline Conflict at its core is a light version of MOBA games like Dota 2, Smite, League of Legends, stuff like that. Your objective is to push the crystal to a certain point in order to win. That's pretty much it. The enemy team and your team are just there to get that done. Killing each other is not going to get you a win. It is just a means by which you can increase your chances of winning. At the end of the day, it's all about the crystal. So as a Machinist, your purpose in a Crystalline Conflict match is to stay back and assert pressure on the enemy team and pick off targets one by one. Like, that is basically your job. You're not a melee duelist. You're not supposed to go into the heat of battle and just, let anyone kill you, because the job itself, it does not have many options to instantly retreat. Like, for example, you have Dragoon, right? They have a jump, elusive jump. Not only does it work as sort of like a purify, but it also puts some distance between them and the other player or the other team. Red Mage has a displacement skill, so these are just a couple examples of what other jobs have and what this one doesn't. So you have to use the fact that you're a ranged DPS and use that to your advantage, because you don't have options to instantly retreat if you're in a tight spot. Now, of course, there will be times when you yourself would have to contest for the crystal as well and push it forward, but this will mostly be when the enemy team is down on a few members, because that will give your team the numerical advantage, and numerical advantage is all the rage in Crystal Conflict. That is straight up the undisputed fact. So that is basically the purpose of the Machinist. So do keep that in mind. You are not a melee duelist, and you need to think from the perspective of a sniper and play that way to be the most effective in any match at any given time. But that said, let's go ahead and get into the full breakdown of the PvP actions for Machinist. So you have the list of skills over here, right? So let's go over them one by one, and basically it's what it's about. So you have Blast Charge, your basic GCD action. With a cast time of 1.44 seconds, this attack delivers a range, basically a range attack, with a potency of 4,000. Additional effect is that it grants you a heat stack, which once you get 5 of those, you will overheat, which will allow you to use Heat Blast. Now, if you use Machinist in PvE content, you already know what heat is and what Heat Blast is. So that's half the thing already, done. Over here, though, the thing is that each time you gain a stack of heat, the duration of that is 15 seconds. And every time you gain a new stack, it resets. However, once you get the 5th stack, your duration changes to 5 seconds because you're overheating, and the duration of overheat is 5 seconds compared to the 7 seconds you get in PvE content. In these 5 seconds, you can only essentially get 3 GCDs before everything is done for and you're back to, getting heat. After that, we have Scattergun. Now, this essentially serves as your knockback skill to, and it's a really interesting skill in my opinion, because it allows for some fun strategies at times, because you can push people out of the crystal during contentions in parts of the game, and it really helps. It has a recast of 20 seconds, and it delivers an attack of 4,000 potency, to all enemies in the cone before you, just like how it is in PvE with the cone aspect of it. However, here's the thing, it strikes twice when you're attacking a single target, and then it has a knockback of 10 yalms. The thing over here to note is that the twice striking aspect of this works against one target only, and the cone range is really vast. So if you're going to set up something with scattergun against a single target, you'll have to make sure that they're in a position where you cannot accidentally hit someone else with the attack. The next big thing for Machinist is the tool skills. You have drill, then you have bioblaster, air anchor, and chainsaw. Now the way this works, right, is that you have two charges on this skill, this tool roulette, so to say. And each time you use the skill, you basically get a buff which allows you to use the next skill. So the sequence over here is that the first thing you have to use is drill. And once you do that, you get bioblaster. Then you use bioblaster, and after waiting for a few seconds for the charge to be refreshed, you can use air anchor. And then the last one, chainsaw. That is basically all there is to it. So you have to go by this sequence. In my opinion, this is one of the disadvantages that Machinist has, because you have all four skills assigned to one key in a random sequence. Not a random sequence, actually, it's a pretty fixed one. But in combat, it can be really disadvantageous for you because bioblaster does not have that long of a range. You need to get like considerably close to enemies before you can actually use it, unlike drill, air anchor, or chainsaw, which you can just use from like the south pole, and it'll hit the enemy and get the job done. Alright, so the first thing that analysis does is that it increases the potency of drill to 200%. That's basically double the normal potency as we saw earlier. For bioblaster, it adds the heavy debuff, a plus 75% heavy debuff, which is quite a lot. It is much like Warrior's Bloda, where it like just pulls them in and inflicts heavy. For air anchor, the potency is increased and the bind effect changes to stun. Now this is important. Why? Because when a person is under the effect of bind, right, they can use their actions. They can use guard, they can use recuperate, all that stuff, they can do that. However, when they get stunned, they cannot do any of that stuff, which allows you to pick them off much easier. For chainsaw, however, and this is the fun part, for chainsaw, you have a 5% chance to deal damage equal to 100% of target's HP. And what that basically means, and you guessed it, one hit KO. That is right. And this can proc on more than one target, because chainsaw is actually a multi-target skill. So do keep that in mind. Like, you have a 5% chance to essentially one-shot the enemy team. The weird part over here is that Machinist, in my opinion, may just be the most balanced class in the game in PvP right now. Because when you look at Samurai, when you look at Ninja, when I look at all these, these jobs with their limit breaks and all of that, I look at this and I'm like, yeah, like Machinist is pretty much the only one of the, if not the only, fairly balanced jobs in the game. So that's one thing. All right, so that's basically the effects of analysis. So let's take a look on drill. Like I said, double the potency. The next big thing though is that it ignores the guard skill. It bypasses guard. So like if someone is guarding, you can just spam drill on them and don't worry about a thing. It'll hit them and get the job done. However, once you do that, you'll have bioblaster. And that's the thing. This is a dot skill with a conal range, and it's got a potency of 4,000, and then it inflicts the dot, which has a potency of 4,000 as well. The duration is 9 seconds, and like I said, you have a heavy debuff as well when you use it under the effect of analysis. However, the range on this skill is very like considerably lower. Like as you can see over here, it says 12 yalms on the range section over there. But when you look at drill, you have a 25 yalms range. That's a lot. That's honestly a lot. Like you are, like Bioblaster cuts your range down by half or a little more than half, and that's not really good for a job that is supposed to stay back and put pressure on the enemy team. That's not good. So Wildfire, you have a 20-second cooldown on Wildfire, a 7-second duration on the skill. It works pretty much the same way like it does in PvE, and potency is increased by 4,000 for each of your own weapon skills, and then it just explodes, dealing damage to the target and enemies nearby the target. That's pretty much it, nothing big over here. You have, we already talked about Bioblaster. For Air Anchor, the normal effect is bind, restricts movement, and the potency is 8,000. Duration for the bind is 3 seconds. Under the effect of analysis, your potency is increased by 50%, and the bind effect becomes stun, which basically means that they can't do a single thing. However, this is the third skill in your tool roulette. Like this is the third one. And after that is chainsaw. So you have to think about when to use analysis on which skill and what to prioritize. Like there's a priority system that I go by, and I would say that most machinists who know their job in PvP would have a similar mindset for the tool roulette. Alright, so now we look at chainsaw. Now chainsaw essentially is a straight line AoE, and it deals damage with the potency of 10,000. However, it has a 3% chance to one-shot the enemy, right? As you can see from the tooltip. However, there's a small error over here. Now, over here it says that you have a 3% chance to deal damage equal to 100% of the target's HP while under the effect of analysis. Effect cannot be triggered when targeting clears, riding machine on whatever, right? However, when you go to analysis, you can see the error over here, right? 5% chance to deal damage equal to 100% of target's HP. Now, if anyone out there has done some tests on this whole thing, then maybe look out for that information, because I have not been able to find anything of that sort yet, but I did get a few one-shots in Crystalline Conflict, but I'm not exactly sure what the accurate chances are. Heat Blast, pretty much the same thing. You have 1.5 second recast, deals a damage potency of 6,000, and can only be executed when you're under overheat status. And after that, you have this guy to talk about, the Bishop Auto Turret. I have a really, I have a positive impression of this thing, but the thing is that its defensive capabilities are kind of pale in comparison to what White Mage has, what Summoner has, stuff like that. So let's see. Deploys a turret, we all know that, which delivers auto attacks enemies within range with the potency of 4,000. The duration is 10 seconds. Increases target's damage taken by 10%. This is the important part, and the duration for that is 5 seconds. And also it has a 5-second barrier on you as well, which absorbs damage equivalent to a heal potency of 2,000. Now, in my opinion, this needs to be strengthened up a little bit, because White Mage and Summoner, like those barriers are kind of strong in my opinion, but that's about it. Ether Mortar is pretty much the same thing what the Bishop does, so nothing big over there. And then you have your standard actions, the Elixir, Recuperate, Guard, Purify, Sprint, the same stuff. And last but not the least, Limit Break, Marksman Spike. Now, 10-second recast delivers a ranged attack with a potency of 36,000. This, in my opinion, is the most basic limit break in the game. Like, has to be. Like, I've played quite a few jobs in PvP thus far, and Machinist's limit break is probably the most balanced and fair right now. So let's talk about some extra stuff regarding the actions and the strategies you can use, some of the miscellaneous information, bits and pieces. So one thing I wanted to touch upon is Bioblaster, right? So the thing is that Bioblaster not only deals damage with the potency of 4000, but it also inflicts a dot with the same potency. However, if you use Bioblaster when the enemy is guarding, the effect of the dot is affected by the guard itself. So that potency, 4000, will be reduced by 90%. The other thing that I want to talk about was the limit break. Now, as you can see, it deals damage with the potency of 36,000 only. So what happens is that most of the times what you'll do is that you'll see an enemy with 50% or less HP, and then you'll instantly go in for the kill with limit break. What happens at times is that they may just use a heal or something like that. So you have to take a look at their MP bar as well, because what it leads to then is that your limit break will hit them and they will literally survive by just a pixel of HP, like just 1 or 10 HP, and that's really, really annoying because your limit break is gone and you now have to wait for a couple minutes for it to get back. That's just not how it's going to work. Another thing about Machinist itself is that you really cannot contest for the crystal in the melee range unless you absolutely have to. Like, you just can't do that. Like, this is one of the drawbacks of Machinist, right? Like, if your party is not doing well, let's say all 4 of those people are dead, even if you go in to stall for the crystal, like for them to spawn back and assist you with the kind of crystal contest and whatever, it's not going to work because your guard itself lasts for only 5 seconds, and then you don't have any options to really retreat or self-sustain yourself outside of recuperate and sprint. That's really all you have, which is one of the disadvantages of this job. Of course, you're a ranged DPS who have to stay back, which is your biggest advantage in my opinion, but having some form of self-sustain outside of recuperate, and I'm not talking about Bishop auto turret, like, let's not mix that with self-sustain. Something like what Dragoon has, something like what Red Mage has, like all that stuff. Machinist definitely needs some buffs for it to be more, well-rounded, because right now its sole purpose is on the back lines and just sniping enemies and putting pressure on the team so that your party can actually get stuff done. And when there's no one around, you can just move around the arena and exert some pressure and stuff like that. Like, literally, that is your job. That is your job. You have to keep moving around the arena, stay at range, and put pressure on the enemy so that your team can get the kill confirms and all of that stuff. And as a machinist, you are like fairly reliant on your party itself. So if you're paired up with a bunch of, interesting and amazing people, you might not have the resources to get the win. Because ultimately, in Crystalline Conflict, it's a team-based game. The numbers are king, and you can only rely on yourself. You can only practice and make your performance better, because that is the only controllable factor. But at the end of the day, the team factor is there. It is very much prevalent, and you just can't really ignore that, really big advantage that lies in numbers. So that's just one thing I want to bring up. That's pretty much it for the breakdown of actions. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of my previous games as a machinist and see what I was doing over there. And basically, I'll break them down so I give you some form of practical experience on what you can do as a machinist in a game to, just make your chances the highest you can make them. So it started off, the enemy team had Samurai, Monk, Dragoon, Reaper, and Machinist. This one volcanic heart. So I always use the sprint packs on this map to basically, this is my place. I'm a sniper. I'm supposed to be moving around the map at intense, speeds and just putting the pressure on the team. Like, this is what I try to do on whatever map I play, like Volcanic Heart, Lystra, and whatever. Over here, I was being focused by Dragoon, but Worm Wind Thrust, the further away you are from the enemy, the more damage they take, up to a maximum of 16,000. So I had to just run away ASAP because I had enough HP to tank it, but I knew if I would face him one-on-one, I'd probably die. So not a good plan. So I go ahead with my team. Everyone's alive, they're doing well. Over here we had the advantage in terms of numbers. So I had the opportunity to go melee and contest for the crystal, deal damage up close, and stuff like that. So that was the biggest thing to note in that part. Right now we're on a numerical advantage, and whenever that is the case, like whenever you see that you have a distinct, a clear numerical advantage, you are supposed to, look for the opportunity and go in melee and just basically pressure the enemy with your scatter gun. You have your bishop auto turret, you have bio blaster, and just all of that stuff. And right now, as you can see over there, I used my limit break, which did not really get me the kill. This happens at times, and it's a really bad thing, but it deals enough damage, put some really big pressure on the team, and if your party's there, they can probably get the kill confirmed as well. And I used a potion over there earlier, really important. Don't forget to use your potions. Don't wait for your MP to be really low. Just know when to back off and use your potions, because you only get 4 charges of recuperate. So right now we have the advantage again. We only have 3 enemy members, so in melee range we're all putting the pressure, contesting with the crystal and all that good stuff. And right now we're also having the bomb situation going on. So this is a really an interesting place to be, because if you have people like Warrior, like jobs like Warrior, or basically anything that can stun you, just reduce your movement speed, you can easily get caught in the explosion and die. And that is equally as hilarious as it is frustrating, so that's another thing. These scores also help, because obviously they increase your damage, they help a lot. But right now we are kind of low on numbers as well. We have 1 dead party member. I'm just trying my best to pressure the enemy over here. I'm just trying my best to just hold them off and let my team do the work. Because right now, we have an equal ground. But I was taking some damage, and this could have gone worse, right? So I just backed off, and I knew I had to use my potion for the HP. Because whether I use a recuperate or whatever, I wouldn't have to use the potion, because my MP would have been too low for me to go back in combat again. So that's one thing. So here you can see I killed the Machinist ASAP, because a Machinist can be really problematic. If you give it enough time, Machinist can be really, really problematic in a game. And it's not just because of its limit break, which can catch you from the South Pole or whatever. It's actually because of what its toolkit can do in the right circumstances and the right hands. So right now we're pretty close to the game, and we can see that the enemy team is just trying their best to stop us. All the 5 people are just here, and the samurai is a danger zone. The samurai uses limit break. I don't know what happened over there, because no one died actually. So probably just dealt some damage. Because the way Samurai works is that you can't hit him when he's preparing his LB or something like that. So it's really hard to focus one person in such chaotic situation. It's really difficult to do that. But yeah, this was back when I was in silver, and it was a really annoying experience to be there, because, like I said, you can only focus on yourself. You can only control your own gameplay. So if you are doing well, you will eventually climb the ranks. You will eventually get better, even better, and you will climb the ranks and get the rank that you want to get. But ultimately, Crystalline Conflict is a team-based game, so there has to be team cohesion. Your team must have a defined set of objectives outside of just pushing the crystal, because you can't throw bodies at the crystal and expect to win. That is not going to work. but people in Duty Finder just don't understand that concept. At least on the ranks where I am, like I'm currently on Golden. Golden, I think I was on 3, but then I'm kind of fluctuating between 3 and 4 on Golden. But it all comes down to playing with a mindset, with a strategy in mind. Because Crystalline Conflict is all about pushing the crystal, but you have to have some tactics. You can't just throw bodies at them and expect to win because that's not going to work. It's a ranged job, so you can essentially just stay on the back lines, take cover behind a pillar like a stealth action game or something, and just nuke people, put some pressure on them, and let your team do the job, like the active job of killing them off and pushing the crystal. And you can just provide support from the back lines. It's not much different than what White Mage does, only that you don't have an LB as good as White Mages, and you can't really turn people into small pigs and cactuses and mims and whatever. So that's pretty much the reason why you should play Machinist. Machinist's toolkit needs a certain, some specific buffs because in the way of self-sustain, it really doesn't have much aside from recuperate. The Bishop Auditor needs to be buffed a little bit, maybe provide some healing or a higher degree of damage mitigation, shielding, because lots of other classes have that kind of stuff, and Machinist not having one is basically, a second stab in the back because right now it's not really in a good place in PvE content either. Like, of course, it got, potency buffs across the board, overall, I would say, in some skills. But at its core, Machinist still has some issues that need to be addressed, much like how, Dark Knight had them. So this is pretty much the current state of Machinist in PvP. So I hope this guide helps you out in making a decision and helps you in performing in the games. There will be losses, there will be wins. Don't get frustrated and just um, focus on your own gameplay. Like just try to get better and better and better. This is PvP. This is competitive stuff. So there will always be someone better than you. So you have to go in the right mindset. Like this is so important. I just cannot stress this enough. And this is even more important over here because it can get insanely frustrating because Crystalline Conflict is a team-based game. Like there are so many factors that you can consider, to be the cause for your loss in a game. Like you can be trying so hard. There have been so many games where I've been performing well. I contested for the crystal a lot. I died like 0 to 1 times. I got a lot of kills. I had a ton of assists, and I was dealing insane damage. But we still lost in overtime as well. Like after spending a lot of time in overtime. Why? Because like the team just maybe lost its composure near the end or something like that. Like there's been so many matches where it is clearly the team's chemistry at fault, which just allows the other person to take advantage of it and just push the crystal forward and get the win. So it can be really frustrating because at the end of the day you have way too many variables to consider for losses and victories. Whereas in competitive games like fighting games, for example, you only have yourself and your skill level to blame. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, show some support, subscribe as well, and click the notification bell to not miss out on any future uploads and all of that stuff. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and thank you very much for watching, and I appreciate the support. See you in the next one.